All right, well, guys, welcome back to another episode of Shooting Womp Rats. I'll be hosting the majority of the day because Daniel is on the road doing this by phone. So I'm Don.
I'm Daniel.
And we are Shooting Womp Rats. We're very glad that you're here today. I don't have anything to start us off with, so I say we just head right into the news. What do you think, Daniel?
And now for the news.
This week, the Adventure Seed Monday number 32 is a really good one. It's got a lot of stuff going on with it. First, the characters are going to be enacting negotiations. Terrain will be urban. Complication will be a wrong destination. The opposition is droids, and there's no special hazard this week. To me, I like it. I think it's got a lot of legs. All right, this week's Character Tuesday 32 is Herden Nyrael, part of a cartel of ships hired to move refugees from Alderaanian space to New Alderaan. Herden saw the cruelty and the duplicity of the Empire firsthand, and he spends a lot of his time cultivating and developing relationships with the Alliance and others to move people from one place to another. So basically, he knows people who can get things done.
He knows somebody who knows somebody.
He knows somebody who knows somebody that knows someone that probably get it done. Rumor Wednesday number 32, one of Imperial Inquisitor Cedrus's top generals wishes to defect to the New Republic. And this actually ties into the adventure that Brett is putting together based on last week's Adventure Seed Monday. So that's kind of cool. All right. I like it. Whenever Brett's off excited about doing something, and apparently it's going to be a two-part adventure. The date hasn't been established, but I do believe it's going to be April 7th or thereabouts that he's going to run it. And he's going to do a pre-gens, and I think he's trying to put some people together. So, all right, Planet Thursday number 32 is a planet named Ruzum. It is a cold planet, typically in the 25 to minus 4 degree Fahrenheit range, with a Type 2 atmosphere where a breath mask is suggested. This could be just because it's so cold all the time. Doesn't necessarily mean that there has to be a taint in the atmosphere. Now, it has a heavy gravity with roughly 80% of the surface covered by water or frozen, liquid of some type. The surface is dotted with hardy dwarf trees. Has a standard class starport and home to 240,000 sentients. It's governed over by a large military government, and the planet has an industrial level of tech, and this is in turn fed by its vast resources cache found near its many large geyser fields.
So, good.
Yeah, so that's Ruzum, or Ruzum if you want to throw an extra U in there. R-U-U-Z-I-M, Ruzum.
My character of the week this week is General Wedge Antilles. Now, this was by request from Cameron. Oh Lord, I can't even remember how to pronounce his last name again. But Cameron from the G Plus community requested it. Even pointed me in the right direction as to where to find the stats for him. Wedge, of course, is a mainstay. He was played by the same actor in all the movies. He's a hero. Everybody should know about this guy. He leads Rogue Squadron, the premier X-Wing squadron. He also created Wraith Squadron. And, of course, you guys know that I've been mulling over the idea of making a Wraith Squadron source book, so it fit. I even added in.
I think you've been a little more than mulling over this. I think you've been a bit obsessing, OCDing on this, but that's all right.
I printed 28 pages of research material.
Okay, now you're treading on my shtick, sir. You're treading on my shtick where I go off and get, obsessed on something, and then all of a sudden it's 4 hours later, 30-some-odd pages of notes, and Daniel's like, so what you do today? Took notes on Star Wars stuff. Okay. All right, go ahead. Continue. Wedge Antilles. And, oh, by the way, real quick question. Was it Cameron Falkenberg?
Falkenberg, that's it. Thanks.
He's in my Monday night group.
Sweet.
Yeah, he's a good guy. He's a music he's a music major guy, though, so, I mean, he's kind of a geek. We like geeks, though. All right, back to Wedge Antilles.
I even added in personality for those GMs willing to play him as an NPC. Other than that, yeah, he's a well-rounded character. Of course, he's got his specializations in being in an X-Wing. I think
Specializations. I spit on specializations. Patooey.
I had to actually go to a book I didn't own for his stats. That was the Jedi Academy source book. Unfortunately, these stats only show him after, or right after, The Last Command.
Really?
The final book in the Zahn trilogy, yeah.
That's real interesting. I'll have to do some research on that one.
Exactly. I'm pretty sure his stats may not have changed between there and the events concerning the Rogue Squadron series. But it would be interesting to see, or to postulate, whether or not he actually got better than, 8 or 9D in an X-Wing?
It's a good question. He ran spent a lot of time in an X-Wing.
An interesting fact is he ended up spending a lot of time in TIE fighters with Rogue Squadron.
I didn't know that. But again, I am one of the few people who have not read the X-Wing Rogue Squadron books.
Okay.
I haven't read them yet. I plan on it. I wish I had. The last book I read, even as an audiobook, I felt as though I'd wasted my time.
Are you hungry, Don?
I'm hungry. Let's head on over to the buffet. What do you say? My treat today.
Hey, I'm always down with a meal that somebody else pays for.
Exactly. Virtual or not, it'll still fill your belly, if not your mind. All right. Vong over at Rancor Pit discussed last week's episode. Did you get a chance to look at his post over at Rancor Pit?
Yep, I even responded.
Oh, sweet. I don't think I did. I think I saw you had posted, and I'm like, okay. And then you're whining because you're like, no one's listening.
Hey.
I know. Hey, you know what?
I know at least one other person in Vong listens.
Yes, there are at least 2. We have 2 people out there, at least. So it's not a complete waste of effort, because we know that they appreciate it. Mm-hmm. We do. All right, but let's see. Vong had made some observations, but I think the one I think we want to discuss is probably the dark side point discussion.
Oh, absolutely, because the other ones are just they're trivial. He made a thread about hyperspace time, and I sat down and gave it some extra thought, and what came back to me was, does it really matter how long they're going to be in hyperspace? Because you can either just seg to a cutscene, or you can use it for a mini event for them. Because 9 times out of 10, they're just going to be stuck in hyperspace.
I've been doing that as well. I only put a cutscene in it if there's something like character development, something for the characters to role play out. Otherwise, I'll skip over it unless there's like a complication or something along those lines for the hyperspace trip itself. For me, it's pretty much a non-issue. I mean, the game is not meant to be micromanaged down to every minute that they're moving around. In fact, you are supposed to pretty much just move from one exciting scene to another using cutscenes. So, doesn't really matter. But the dark side discussion, or dark side point, corruption point from last week. Anyway, dark side point discussion last week was you have an enemy in front of you. He's been shooting his blaster at you. You shoot him, and for whatever reason, he drops his weapon. He's sitting there in the hallway. He hasn't made an attempt to go grab the weapon again, but you guys' eyes lock. All right? The person drills him and either kills him, knocks him unconscious, whatever. We're going to assume kills him, all right, in one shot. Does that deserve a dark side point or not? And I tell you what, we're sort of on the, at least I was kind of like, it kind of depends on the motivation, the person, if they're force sensitive or not. And he had pointed out that, he was breaking it down between non-Jedi and Jedi, which for me basically breaks down along the lines of force sensitive or non-force sensitive, because by the rules, force sensitives actually are held to the same standard of code of conduct that a Jedi is when they're dealing with other people. So he had typed up non-Jedi, no. You are in combat just because you get an advantage over someone in a fight, not unconscious, does not mean that you have to be stupid and let them pick up their weapon, especially if there are more bad guys around. So I think he wrote that with trying to make the distinction, if the person was still conscious and you're still in a free fire combat zone, drilling the guy again, not a dark side point. But if the person was unconscious and couldn't fight and then you drilled them, then he would probably say dark side point. And I think unequivocally I would probably do that as well. What do you think, Daniel?
I agree. But then again, as heavy-handed as I am with Jedi players, and yeah, I agree, Force sensitives too, because Force sensitives have that ability to be corrupted to the dark side, and they don't have to be Jedi.
Everybody, not just Force sensitives, can be turned and corrupted. They just happen to be more susceptible to it. And not only that, a Force sensitive, whether they have Jedi training or a Force philosophy training, do start out the game with twice as many Force points as anybody else.
That's right.
They do get 2 instead of 1. All right, now, and then the other case that he posted, he said, if you are a Jedi, when you have disabled someone, you have to give them another chance to surrender. If there are other bad guys around and he is still conscious, then no. Again, putting down an opponent in a large fight does not give you a dark side point. They had their chance to surrender at the start of the fight or during the fight. I'm not really sure how I feel about that. I mean, if it's a lone character, a lone NPC, and their weapon has been dropped, I do believe the characters should give them the opportunity to surrender before drilling them. If it came up to if it was a non-Force sensitive individual, and it kind of went with their character and stuff like that, as long as the person wasn't killed, I mean, if they just drilled them, knocked them unconscious, whatever, I don't think I would give them a dark side point. But if they just blatantly just mowed him down, I think that would be grounds for one. But again, I think it kind of goes back to the thing before. If they're in the middle of a combat situation, I don't know. I think depending upon the actions of the individuals and how they're portraying their characters would be the deciding factor for me in this case.
Oh yeah, roleplay trumps it all. If they're going to be real snarky and make the move, I'm going to have to say, hey, look at there, you feel a little corruption, huh?
Well, it's kind of like that. One of my players from Monday night, he went ape on a prison guard, and ended up just, he just attacked the guy and just pummeled him to death. And when that was all over and done with, I mean, he role played out. It was the worst day he'd ever had. Was sort of remorseful about what he'd done, but he still got 2 corruption points.
Could have been more.
Could have been more. I thought I was being kind of lenient with it. And I think that was really the biggest part. I guess, there's one more part here where he says, if the NPC shouts, "I surrender," as he drops his weapon, then yes, on both cases, he does not shout that he surrenders. He is still considered a combatant, just less deadly than he was before. He could take out another weapon, a grenade, whatever, and still try to kill you. Even if he drops his blaster, his aim is still to kill you, and therefore no dark side point most of the time. So again, I think when it's all over and done with, I think he kind of is on the same page as we are. Probably leaning towards no for non-Force sensitives, sort of on the fence with Force sensitives depending upon their motivation and how they're role-playing it out. And that definitely, it depends if it continues to be a combat situation or if the situation is a single NPC and has been pretty much diffused. Sound about right?
Sounds about right to me.
All right, then. And I guess, also this week, Panzer Jedi up on Rancor Pit had posted 9 templates that he had posted, which were like Imperial Army, Navy. I'm sorry, not Imperial. They were Galactic Republic pre-Empire, right during the Clone Wars, non-clone templates, which I took and cleaned up and posted and gave him credit for. But there's 9 templates floating out there around, and I liked what I saw. I mean, I wish each one had sort of a blurb of what it was specifically, as opposed to just going by the template name. But yeah. I thought he did a fairly good job with that. I was happy with it.
So am I. It's a good thing to see people fleshing out more of the Clone Wars instead of just making it clones versus droids, or worse yet, Jedi versus droids.
Or, making Zabrak, smuggler pilots with a chip co-pilot. Let's see. Let's move on to the Jedi Library. What do you say?
Absolutely.
All right. What book did you pick this week? Because I did not. I'm still muddling my way through the GM Handbook, which, by the way, I'm absolutely loving.
Let's work with the GM handbook.
Okay, well, you go with yours first. I'll back you up, brother.
I was and am still surprised by the GM handbook. I went in thinking of it more along the lines of the Dungeon Master's Guide from D&D. It's not that at all. It's actually put together to help a game master develop a campaign, which I really found to be more interesting.
Yeah, and I really like that, even though it is written from a Star Wars genre perspective, I mean, specifically for this game and these mechanics, a lot of the advice, 90% plus of the advice they give on structure, use of senses, description, character development for NPCs, and stuff like that is pretty universal. You could go off and read this book, and it would make you a better game master in any game you ran.
Mm-hmm.
I really think. And I mean, like last night, the section I was reading was about setting scenes and how to go off and do those. And then I read the section immediately after that, which was detailing out game master characters and making the distinction between a fluff character in the background and, you know, something that's only going to be there for a couple scenes and a recurring a character. So what they were making the point of is, I mean, you do not have to have, like for a person that's only going to be in one scene, all you need to know is what stats and skills would be pertinent or would be possibly used in that scene. And then if there's anything else above and beyond that, then just wing it.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't need to have a fully developed character for that. Just an idea of who they are, what they do, and then go from there. And then they were going on about a character that might be in several scenes. For example, say a stormtrooper. You know, you have to have a few more fleshed out ideas of what the character is, but you don't have to have a background on them. And then you've got what's called the recurring character, which is a fully fleshed out, developed character with a background, personality, and goals.
Yep, that could be a helpful NPC all the way over to a recurring big bad.
Exactly. And it was one of those things where I think we all know it and we all think about it, but I mean, actually someone putting it down to paper and reading it just was really a nice refresher and helped me sort of get back on point. When we're doing world creation and adventure creation and stuff like that, sometimes we get caught up in the detail and we forget that, hey, you know what, I don't have to put this much energy or creative energy into this character is not that it's not worth it.
And another thing too is the character that you actually don't put any effort into, that the party ends up either bonding with or hating so much that you end up making them a recurring character. Prime example was in my first campaign that I ran, almost 2 years ago. It was a Bothan. But he was planted on the planet where the character started, trying to start up a resistance against the Empire. He ended up becoming so likable and such a reliable contact for the players that I ended up bringing him back for the final push of that campaign. And the players encountered him again, and even worked with him to overthrow a criminal organization. I didn't expect that to happen, but it's just how the game will bring life to certain aspects that you never expect.
Yep, that's the reason as a game master, especially in Star Wars D6, that you need to kind of roll with it.
Don, you've heard about that new podcast coming out. It's got D6 gameplay in it, right?
Yep, I've even listened to I guess it had 2 half-hour introductory episodes and then a hour or 2 hour game session one, which I haven't made my way through yet.
I have made contact with the GM and the guy who's actually recording and uploading these sessions. Now, I'm not going to try and say his full name because it's like 6 different names in one. But I'll use his first name, Jesse. Sorry.
Welcome to the 21st century where a person's name looks like a monogram chart.
Jesse. He has got his excellent idea going. I met with him briefly on Facebook when he was first proposing the idea. Now he's made it come to life. You can find it at Falling Star www.podbean.com. The campaign's name is Falling Star. He starts it from character generation all the way through, and he's gonna keep it up till it ends, hopefully.
Well,
Go ahead.
Sorry, it does have a single person's character creation. It doesn't have everybody's.
Right, just a single person's.
Right. So just being clear on that.
But we are going to eventually have him on the show, interview him, and get the details out, and most importantly, see if he's wanting other players.
Yep. Actually, he's playing face-to-face game. I asked him if he was interested in doing a VTT or would ever be interested in a VTT. Because I'd contacted him as well. See, we cross streams there, Daniel. Anyways, I was going to say, I'd contacted him. Yeah, he's not really interested in running a VTT or anything like that. So, I mean, if he's going to be adding any players to his group, it's going to be a live group, and I'm not even sure where he's at. And I'd asked if he wouldn't mind, just like you, we kind of double-dutied this one. Had asked him, hey, would you be interested in coming on the show? Kind of tell us about what you're doing, the direction that you're going, some of the things that have been going on for your group, some of the good things, some of the negative things, and if you'd be interested in being on the show. And he said, sure.
So that's definitely something to look forward to in the future.
Absolutely. Hey, real quickly, we're in our Shatterpoints discussion now. A gentleman, I cannot remember, I think it was Lyle something or other, the other day had posted a character and was asking for some advice. And I didn't like his character. I'm going to be honest with people. I didn't like it. No disrespect, Lyle. I don't mean to embarrass you or call you out. I thought it was a Munchkin character. But again, you didn't give a whole lot of the background on the character. So maybe you had it more fleshed out than what I was giving you credit for. But what we came up with was that he had a Jawa character. And the Jawas, as written by the rules, at beginning of character creation, have what's called technical aptitude. And what this does is that at character creation, they get 2D for every 1D they put into a tech repair skill. And this brings up two things. Number one, I think that's way too much, and I don't think that it effectively mimics the character abilities presented in the fluff.
100% agree.
Right. And the other thing about it was that he was wanting to make a slicer character, and the skill, computer programming / repair, is one skill. And so, I mean, it does make sense that he figured that the bonus would go for the programming aspect of it as well. I, as a game master, would have made the ruling that you get the bonus for the computer repair, but not the computer programming. So I thought it was sort of ambiguous. So I went ahead and I added some stuff to the Jawa template, or species template, that I thought better covered Jawas. So the first thing I did was, under special abilities, I removed technical aptitude completely and replaced it with something called Jawa engineering. And Jawa engineering. And basically what it means is that Jawas are masters at making junk work, even if only for a little while. So when making a non-standard repair, a non-standard, meaning they're jury-rigging it, the Jawa gets a +1D modifier to repair skills only, and these repairs can be made without proper materials or tools. But the downside is that they are unreliable. So when the equipment is used and the wild die comes up a 1, it breaks down immediately, and the game master is encouraged to assess an immediate complication. I thought that was much better than a technical aptitude.
Yes, absolutely. And it actually fits the canon for a Jawa.
It does. If you go back and you take a look at it either on Wikipedia or up on Holocron, our good friend over there, Oblivion. And, hey, thank you, buddy, for hosting our podcast. You are a gentleman. Yes, don't worry, we won't tell anybody. All right, under story factors, they had, I'm trying to remember what it was. I can't remember what it was, but I added another one called varmints. What this comes down to, and this takes a lot of the fluff of the Jawas and puts it in 1 or 2 sentences. Varmints. Jawas are cowards and scavengers. They also have a body odor most species and some creatures find unpleasant. Boom. Done.
Yes.
Now, a thing that I was thinking about doing, and I'm not really sure if people are familiar with this, Jawas have a very high body temperature, about 114 degrees Fahrenheit, and they don't take baths. They're only found on Tatooine, So they come from they're naturally hot. So I had thought about, well, it does make sense that if they ever left that sort of climate and went to like a terrestrial climate or, God forbid, a cold planet, they would be sucking. They would be hurting so bad.
Another way to step it up too is under the varmint story factor. Add in that it adds difficulty in dealing with them. So, maybe a minus die for bargain value, any of the persuasion skills, and even intimidate.
I had actually considered that and did not go with it, and I'll tell you why. I decided not to go with a negative modifier to interpersonal skills because that's what they do. They collect garbage, they make it work, they travel across the desert, and they sell it. So they have to be able to do negotiations. And not only that, quite honestly, within the game, nobody buys something from a Jawa because they want to. They do it because they have to.
I like it. So it basically balances itself out. They're tolerated.
Exactly. For example, I had this discussion with somebody last night. Let's say you're in Mos Eisley and you've got 500 credits in your pocket and you need transportation. You walk over there and this guy's got a for sale sign in his land speeder sitting out front of his shop, and it says 800 credits. The Jawa sandcrawler comes through and starts setting up shop outside, and you see this sort of beat up, dilapidated land speeder with, a $500 or 500 credit price tag on it. You probably do not want to trust your life to have this thing get you across the desert. But by necessity, you only have 500 credits and you can't talk the other guy down. So you go over there and you deal with the Jawas and you buy a vehicle that you obviously know is going to be subpar. But yeah, you know what you're buying. I mean, it's kind of like going into like a thrift store or, one of those ones that they kind of say they're a thrift store, but really they're a junk store. Okay, and they've got like TVs and coffee machines and clock radios, and you buy the thing and it might work. That's sort of what I think about with Jawas. So I decided not to give them a negative on it, other than just the social one where people don't like them because, well, they're cowards, scavengers, and they smell bad.
Something else too that came up. I've never even taken into consideration until now. Can Jawas ever speak Basic?
I don't. I would say no for two reasons. One, because you never see it in the movies.
Yep.
You never see them speak Basic. And if they're doing trade with a mostly human population that speaks Galactic Basic, like on Tatooine, as opposed to this trade language, I would think that they would be using it.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. My guess would be no. They can't speak Basic.
But from Episode 4, apparently Luke's uncle understood what the Jawa was saying, so I'm guessing that some people can actually learn the Jawa language.
Definitely. But yeah, I don't know. I think these additions and changes to Jawas, brings them closer in line with the background fluff, and I think the mechanics work out well. I'm kind of toying with the Jawa engineering in that it's considered more of a jury rig, so it takes half as much time. Or giving them, instead of a +1D modifier, it's a +2. I haven't decided. I don't want to. Me. I really don't like the 1 for 2 and +2 bonuses that species get. I think it's just a little heavy-handed. We've had this discussion before. Just me. So, hey, did you see Hisham's paper minis? He's got them all crammed in one place now.
Yeah, he's taken them all, put them up under his blog. If you'll access his blog, Don, what's the address on that?
It's Hisham, or Hishgraphics, HISHgraphics.com, and then there's a bunch of other stuff after it. But I mean, you get in there, you get into his blog posts, and
you look to your just look to the left of the blog and select Paper Minis.
Yep, Hishgraphics.com.
For anybody else who wants to send us submissions, questions, comments, feel free to reach us at shootingwomprats@gmail.com. SWD6 Podcast on Twitter. I do keep up with it. Follow, and I will follow back. Shooting Womp Rats on the Rancor Pit. And, of course, Don and I can be reached on Facebook and G+.
Yes, indeed. Well, Daniel, I do think that we have approached the 40-minute mark today.
I agree. I think it's time to end it.
All right. Well, Daniel, I am glad that you were able to make it. Even from you weren't in your Star Wars bunker today, but you were actually in your land speeder going from point A to point B, making money for the family. But I do appreciate that you were able to get a hold of me, and we were able to get this pounded out today. So thank you, sir.
Definitely. So on behalf of Shooting Womp Rats, I'm Daniel.
I'm done.
May the Force be with you.
Hey, guys, have a great weekend. Be good to your family. Bye-bye.